Hello, brothers and sisters. Brother Trey here again. I apologize for the slow of uploading the Bible studies. I've been trying to upload them every day, but unfortunately, the internet provider I have is very, very slow. It's 5G, so it's not really hardwired into the wall or into the wires. It's all nothing but Wi-Fi. So it's just really, really slow, especially during the day. So again, I apologize for that. Just praying for a better internet connection soon. But anyway, yesterday I did Bible study on Genesis chapter 42. We had talked about how Joseph had sent his brothers back, or Jacob had sent his Joseph's brothers to go to Egypt to get money for their families, and he considered them spies. He was kind of testing them, see if they had changed or not. And he said they were spies. He said, leave one of your brothers, take food with you for your families. And he went back home to his father, but he said, come back with your younger brothers to test if you are true men. But then Jacob, their father, said no, unless evil befall him. He'd get into trouble if he goes back with them. So he told them no. So here we are, chapter 43 out of the book of Genesis, and it reads, And the famine was sore in the land, and it came to pass, when they had eaten up the corn which they had brought out of Egypt, then their father said unto them, Go and buy us a little food. So they ran out of food. They ate it all up. So his father told him to go again. And Judah spake unto him, saying, The man did solemnly protest us, saying, Ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. So he reminded his father, we can't go back unless our younger brother Benjamin was with us. If thou wilt send our brother with us, we will go down and buy thee food. But if thou wilt not send him, we will not go down. For the man said unto us, Ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. So again, can't go unless Benjamin is with us. And Israel said, Wherefore dealt ye so ill with me, as to tell the man whether ye yet had a brother? So how can you do this to me and do so evil or ill to me, as whether you had a brother or not? And he said, The man asked us straightly of our state and of our kindred, saying, Is your father yet alive? Have you yet another brother? And he told us according to the tenor of these words, can we certainly know that he would say, Bring your brother down? So he asked us is your father alive? You have another brother? He asked us our story pretty much. And so how can we certainly know that he would say, Bring your brother down? See, they didn't know he was going to ask them that. He didn't know he was going to ask all these questions. And Judah said unto Israel his father, Send the lad with me, and we will arise and go, that we may live and not die, both we and thou and our little one, also our little ones. So he says, Send with us, so we live and not die. He says, we're going to die if we don't go, because they're out of food. And the little ones are going to starve to death. I will be surety for him, of my hand shalt thou require him. If I bring him not unto thee and set them before thee, and let me bear the blame forever. So blame it on me if he doesn't come back, is what Judah was saying. For except we lingered, surely now we had returned a second time. So we've taken so much time lingering and talking about this that we should have been there. Should have returned there a second time. Should have been there already, as much as he was dragging it out, as he's hindering them from going and taking Benjamin with them. And their father Israel said unto them, If it must be so now, do this. Take of the best fruits in the land in your vessels, and carry down the manna present, a little balm and a little honey, spices and myrrh, nuts and almonds. And take a double money in your hand, and the money that was brought again in the mouth of your sacks, carry it again in your hand. Peradventure, it was an oversight. Take also your brother, and arise and go again unto the man. So he says, okay, but take a present with you, like all these things. Take of the best fruits, a little balm, a little honey, spices, myrrh, nuts, and almonds, and double the money in your hand. The money that was brought, like the money that was put back in your sacks, take that with you too, because it might have been an oversight. They might have overlooked it. and to take your brother again also, like their man. And God Almighty give you mercy before the man, that he may send away your other brother and Benjamin. If I be bereaved of my children, I am bereaved. So it is what it is. He says, I will mourn if bad things befall him, Benjamin. And otherwise, they're all going to die if it doesn't happen. So basically, he's saying it's going to happen. It's going to happen. The Lord have mercy. Says the Lord have mercy upon you all, pretty much. Before that, have favor with the man to send away your other brother and Benjamin, like Simeon. I think it was Simeon that got left behind, and then Benjamin, because he sent him this time too. And the men took that present, and they took double the money in their hand, like your father told them. And Benjamin rose up and went down to Egypt and stood before Joseph. So they went back like they were supposed to, took their brother, took double the money, took the present, and stood before Joseph. And when Joseph saw Benjamin with him, he said to the ruler of this house, bring me these men home and slay and make ready, for these men shall dine with me at noon. And the man did as Joseph bade, and the man brought the men into Joseph's house. So he said, when he saw Benjamin, he told his servant to make ready for a meal. He said, they will dine with me at noon. So they were eating lunch together at Joseph's house. And the men were afraid because they were brought into Joseph's house, and they said, because of the money that was returned in our sacks at the first time we brought in, that we may seek occasion against us and fall upon us to take us for bondmen and our asses. And they came near to the steward of the Joseph's house, and they communed with him at the door of the house. And he said, "Oh, sir, we came indeed down at the first time to buy food. It came to pass when we came to the inn that we opened our sacks, and behold, every man's money was in the mouth of his sacks, and our money in full weight, and we have brought it again in our hands." So, and he's breaking down. He's like, basically in tears, I would assume at this point, begging him. He said, telling him what happened. He's like, "Oh, our money." He's like, because of they feel like they were, they were feeling guilty, so they were like coming clean or something about the money being in their sacks. So he's basically begging for mercy. Because of the money that they were being brought to Joseph's house, so they were going to be, probably killed or whatever in Joseph's house, being punished for stealing money, for not paying for the not paying for the corn. And then he took it before his begging his servant, have mercy, pretty much. And they came near to the house steward of Joseph, and they communed with him at the door of the house. And he said, "Oh, sir, we came indeed down at the time to buy food." So he said, "We came indeed first time to buy food." And it came to pass when we came to the end, and behold, our sacks, and behold, every man's money was in the mouth of the sack. Our money in full weight, and we have brought it again in our hand. So they're saying we brought the money that was left in our sacks back. And other money we have brought down in our sacks to buy food. We cannot tell who put our money in our sacks. So they don't know how. They said, "We don't know how it happened, but we brought that money, and we brought more money for food." That's what he's saying. He said, "Peace be to you, and fear not. Your God and the God of your father had given your treasure in your sacks. I had your money," and he brought Simeon out of them. So he's saying, don't worry about it. He says, "I had your money." He said, "Give it. Your God of your father had given your treasure in your sacks. So I had your money." And he brought Simeon back out. So don't worry about it. I gave him your money back. That's what he said. God, technically saying God gave money. He said, "I had put it back in there." And he brought Simeon out. The man brought the men into Joseph's house and gave them water, and they washed their feet and gave their asses provender, which was food. So they brought them in Joseph's house, gave them water, washed their feet, and fed their asses or donkeys. And then they made ready the present against Joseph. Came at noon, for they heard that they should eat bread there. So they heard that they were going to eat there, so they made ready. They knew Joseph was going to be there, so they made ready the present that their father had made for the Lord of the land, which was Joseph. And Joseph came home, and they brought him the present which was in their hand. in the house and bowed themselves to him in the earth. So Jacob came home, and they brought him the present, which was in their hand, and they bowed themselves to the earth. So they humbled themselves before and they bowed. Of course, he was Lord of the land, so everybody had to bow to him, besides Pharaoh. And he asked them of their welfare and said, "Is your father well? The old man of whom you spake, is he yet alive?" So they asked who his father. And they answered, "And thy servant, our father, is in good health. He is yet alive." And they bowed down their heads and made obeisance. So they said he is in good health and is alive. And they bowed down in honor and respect for Joseph. And he lifted up his eyes and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, and said, "Is this your younger brother whom ye spake unto me?" And he said, "God be gracious unto thee, my son." So he was just asking, is this Benjamin? He knew it was Benjamin. He was just asking. Of course, he might not have recognized him because it's been 17 or 13 years. It's quite a many years since the last time he saw. So he might not even recognize Benjamin. Like they don't recognize Joseph. So he blessed him. He said, "God be gracious unto thee, my son." And Joseph made haste, for his bowels did yearn upon his brother. He sought where he could weep, and he entered in his chamber and wept there. So he was become emotional because he missed his brothers, or he didn't want to make himself known. So he ran in the other room and sought out a place where he could cry and weep. And he washed his face and went out and refrained himself and said, "Set on bread." So he washed his face and made sure to look back normal, so they didn't think he was crying or anything. Maybe he didn't weep much. Maybe his eyes weren't puffy anymore from crying so much. So he said, "Make ready. Let's eat." So they set on for him by himself, for them by themselves, and for the Egyptians, which did eat with them by themselves, because the Egyptians might not eat the bread with the Hebrews, for this is an abomination unto the Egyptians. So the Egyptians and the Hebrews didn't eat together. I'm assuming that Joseph ate by himself. He was looking at his brothers from across the room. And they sat before him the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth, and the men marveled at one another. So according to age, firstborn, from oldest to youngest, they set it before him. And he took and sent messes unto them from before him. But Benjamin's mess was 5 times so much as theirs, and they drank and were merry with him. So they set food in front of him. Messes, I'm guessing they mean meals in front of them. Amounts of mess of food, a whole bunch of food. But they made Benjamin's amount bigger, 5 times bigger than the rest of them, because he was spoiling his brother, because he was the youngest. Anyway, so they were running out of food again. Food, especially during famine, food only lasts so long. It was inevitable that they would have to go back for food because the famine waxed sore. So, it just kept going. The famine kept going. So there were no more crops growing at this time. So they had to go back. It couldn't be avoided. So eventually Jacob knew, either he went to go back for food, or they went back for food, or they were all going to die. And he knew that he had to send his youngest son Benjamin, so that they might actually get food this time. So he was, was worried, but then he knew he had to do it because more than one person was going to die in case something happened to Benjamin or Simeon. He knew that had to be done because otherwise they were all going to die. So it was a desperate moment. He knew he had to do it. So he sent them all. They went all before Joseph, and Joseph saw Benjamin. He got a little emotional. They came clean about the money before his servant, and he said, "Don't worry about it. I knew about it. I had your money. I was the one that did it. He was coming. They came clean about the money still being in their sacks, but he came clean and saying that he did it. So he was coming clean. So don't worry about it." To his, comforting them, saying, don't worry about it. He said God did that. The Lord blessed them with the money back in their sacks. They got food without having to pay for it. So the Lord blessed them, he was saying. So they sat down to eat with Joseph, and they fed their donkeys. They brought the present to Joseph, and then they started talking over food. And Joseph saw his brother Benjamin. He became emotional again and ran out and wept there. And he said, "Let's eat." And they separated because they couldn't eat. The Hebrews and the Egyptians couldn't eat together, and they went from oldest to youngest, and they set them that way. But Benjamin's food was more than the rest of them. So like I said last time, the Lord orders our steps. This is how it must happen. Still they weren't reunited. The truth wasn't. The Lord's plan wasn't complete. Joseph was brought out of prison. He was put in second command. The famine wasn't over yet because he was set in second command, so he can govern the land during time of plenty and during the time of famine. And that was his purpose, his destiny, to preserve the nation of Egypt and land of Canaan, but also his family. So for the nations and for his family, the nation, we might as well say the nation of Israel, that he preserved his family. So his family wasn't quite preserved. It was still famine. They were still hungry. They were running out of food. So he ordered his steps. So his family came back. It was inevitable. It was inevitable that he would see his brother again. Just step by step with Joseph. We got to trust the Lord's plan and work all together for our good. So, he did see his younger brother again. He did provide for his family, eating a meal together. They were able to eat a meal together without them knowing, in peace. Then it blessed them. So, excuse my dogs. Excuse my dogs. They bark at the neighbors all the time. So he's able to bless his family and bless his little brother. We get to see his little brother again. So he's reuniting the family step by step, restoring the family. And that's what the Lord does. He restores families, even though they've been estranged for such a long time, 13 years. For instance, or more than that now. He was 30 years old before Pharaoh. We stood before Pharaoh, so here we are after 7 years, so another 37 years, and he's, I think there's about this time, there's about 5 more years into the famine. There's only 2 years in, so he's probably about my age now, and about 39-ish. He's about 39 when he sees his family again. So he'll be reunited with his family at about this time. So. Sometimes you gotta wait. It's Lord orders the steps, like I said. It's step after step. So we just have to wait on the Lord for its timing. And them running out of food was inevitable. I don't know how long that took, but it could have been just like 2 weeks later, if that. It might have been a week later when they ran out of food. Even if they would have rationed it, most could have been a month. They ran out of food because, Benjamin is still young. He still, probably has a good appetite. And then the other men have family too. They have sons of their own, and they eat. So there's more mouths than just the 12. There's more mouths than just Jacob and his wives or whatever is left, and his sons and their wives and their sons and possibly their wives and daughters. It's a lot of mouths to feed, so it doesn't last very long. So it was inevitable that they would go back. So, the Lord likes to restore families. It just may take some time, may take some steps, may take some healing before But the Lord has a plan, and it works out together for the good for those who diligently seek Him. So He, for His people, He works it out for their good. So if you're waiting to be restored to your family, after being estranged for such a long time, after a misunderstanding, like Joseph's case, after a misunderstanding, it's just going to take time. Like he had to forget about his toil from his past, from what his brothers did to him. The Lord had blessed him. He saw the fruitfulness that the Lord had bring into his life. He had to forget about it all. He had to learn to forgive them. And that's what would take time before he'd see his brothers again. And it was a point in time when the Lord had, healed him of its hurt. So that might what it take for your family. So for your family to forgive you, like Jacob did, or Esau would do to Jacob, or for like Joseph had to forgive his brothers for betraying him. So they had to take time for forgiveness, of healing, of past hurts that of this. So once that happens, he will work it out to where we see our family members again. Like after the healing is done, it's still a process. Step by step, we will see our family again, or loved ones, or spouse, or friends, like the old friends, maybe classmates or something. But he's gonna heal us first, and then he'll restore us, then restore our families. And healing might sometimes have to come first. I hope this will bless you in Jesus' mighty name.